Hello, this is Rochelle Agatha, and this is Data Lecture B. We're going to cover several topics, and then you're going to be using these topics in your assignment, and you're going to have to come back to the lecture if you need some reference. It won't be like the previous lectures where I show you how to do the assignment. You're actually going to have to pull from the topics. We're going to talk about count, sum, the lookups, and then a couple of other things. So when you're looking at count, there's count, count A, and count if. Count counts cells that contain numbers. So to count cells with numbers, use the count function. The count A function counts number of cells that are not empty in a range. I don't use this that often, but that's exactly what it does. It counts cells where there's nothing in them. Count if counts cells that meet a criteria, and I use count if a lot. Count if S lets you use multiple criteria. So let's go over to the count. Okay, so let's just play around with some stuff here. Here's some data. It's a bunch of departments. They have a department name, a department full text, so a budget, an actual, and a variance. So this is a typical accounting looking table. Let's say that we want to do the count A. It counts the number of non-blank cells in the range. So here I put count A, and I have B6 to B19. So let's go up and see. B6 to B19. So B6 to B19 has something in every single thing. So it counted 14. So if you look, there are 14 things between 6 and 19 there. So that's why it came up with 14. Why is that useful? It becomes useful when you have a lot of data. So I'm just showing you on a nice little table how you could count. Count, that's count A. Count, just plain old count, counts the number of cells with numbers in the range. So here, it also counted 14. Okay, so in this example, they're the same. Now let me wipe out something here. Notice this changed 13 because I wiped out what was on this line. So if you want to count some stuff and you want to exclude the non-blanks, you're going to use count A. If you just want to count, it counts what's there. Okay. This one I put off of C because it needs it to count numbers with numbers in it. Count A doesn't care if it's counting blank text or not. So let me put this back. Let me take this number out. Okay, this one counted just numbers with cells with numbers in it. So if you're using text, count A works, count only works with numbers. So play around with those. I know you're going to think they're a little redundant, but when you start using them, you'll find that, like I said, I hardly use count A. I use count more than anything because I'm counting cells with numbers. Count if is looking for a criteria. So in this, I want to count all of the admin departments. So I set up my count if, and I have if I click in my formula, it tells me what to do. My range comes first and my criteria comes second. So my range is the range with the criteria in it, and then I designate the criteria. Notice I type the criteria here with quotes. I can actually refer to a cell instead, so I'm going to take that out so you can see. I don't typically type words in my formulas. I typically refer to a cell. So see how I did that and it's still the same thing? So let me put it back. Here you'll see the word admin. Over here I used the cell reference. The cool thing about using the cell reference is I can change my cell reference and the formula automatically changes. So this is one of those tips from using Excel for a long time. I suggest you do not type words in your formula. I suggest you refer to a cell. So let me put this back and then you'll see they're the same. Count if S counts the number of cells with a specified criteria for multiple. So here I want to count, here I have two criteria. I want to count everything that is greater than 1,000 or 10,000 and is president. So coming up to my range of A6 to A19, I'm going to count everybody that's a president who's making more than, did I say 10,000 or, yeah, 10,000. Okay, so all the presidents make more than 10,000 as it is. So you'll see that it's 3. What if I make this 99 or 50,000? Now there's only one president who makes more than 50,000. So I use COUNTIF-S a lot. So keep that in mind. Play around with this yourself because this spreadsheet will be posted in your lecture. SUMIF does similar as count, but it's summing. So SUMIF sums a range based on a criteria. So let's sum all the admin people. So up here, and I've moved away from typing the word admin in my formula because I just don't do that. I refer. So up here, it's going to look in this key. You got to get it in order: the range, the criteria, and the sum range. So my range is the department. My criteria is wherever I put this data could be way anywhere, okay? And then my sum range is the C's. So I'm summing up all the people who are admins. And I'm going to prove to you it works. 123,000 is what the admins make. I'll come up here and highlight the admins, and notice down here it says 123. I use this a ton. Why do I use this? Because if you just use sum and refer to ranges and then you move your spreadsheet around, you sort it, you do insert, you will lose your consistency and your accuracy of your formulas. So this is a very powerful. SUMIF-S, same thing, multiple criterias. All the presidents that make greater than 0. Okay, here I'm going to SUMIF-S, all the presidents that make, less than 0. So there's nobody, right? So that's why it referred to 0 or 10,000. So it summed up the criteria of president with less than 0. And let me see what I got going on here because that really isn't making sense either. Oh, the variance. I'm sorry. It's looking at the variance where it's less than 0. So we want to look at the president's budget where their variance is less than 0. And there it is right there. Everybody else is over. So I can use SUMIF-S when I'm looking at variances. So let's see if I change a number so you can see how it's actually going to, let's make this one 16. Now I have 2 of them, and it's going to add up my negative variance of 11,000. So very powerful tool, those 2 right there. Okay, so we did COUNTIF, SUMIFs. Now let's do VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP works really well, but I do find myself using SUMIF more than VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP needs the looking up data in the first cell of the table. So if I want to VLOOKUP, here's the stance of the formula. It has a lookup value, a table array, a column index, and then a range lookup if you need to. So here I'm saying VLOOKUP B11, go through my table A4, which is position through from A4 to B8, which goes down here. And then I say it's the second, I want the second one in. And then I have false. So over here, I'm looking at this table, and I'm saying if I'm a VP, the average pay is 165,000. In words, that's what I'm trying to say. Look to see what the VP makes and put the average pay in. So I'll put the 165 right here. I can copy that down, making sure you absolute in the proper spot. I absoluted my table, but I didn't absolute the lookup item. So the purpose of this table was to put the average pay so I could compare it to the current pay and see if they're making over or under. So the key to the VLOOKUP is the first thing you're looking up has to be the first thing in the table it's looking up to. If not, you'll get the error that I showed you on the error table where it says when using a lookup function you get the NA. That is the biggest error that you'll find. So play around with that. I don't use HLOOKUP at all, but I'll give you a little example. I just, in my own life, it never really seems to come up because I don't type data horizontally, I type it vertically. Same difference here. You're looking the table up in a horizontal, so it's a horizontal lookup, a table array, a row index, and a range value. So when you look at this one, it's looking up in the table horizontally, and then it's coming down and saying, you know, put the data in the spot. So play around with that one too. Like I said, I type all my data vertically. I just do. So I use VLOOKUP more than HLOOKUP. I've already showed you how to lock rows and titles, but I'm going to do it again. So go into View, Freeze Panes. I'm going to unfreeze them. I'm going to freeze them. It puts it so that when I move across, my data stays put. We've done this a few times. And then average if. Average is a range, a criteria, and an average range. So I think I did that in this one. Let's see. Oh, here's another example. I'll leave this in there for you with a sum if. This is just an example of another problem using sum if. Average if you want to average something, a range on a criteria and then an average range, so we can go into the data where we had the all the people. Where'd it go? All right, I'm looking for my, there we go. Let's say we want to average right here. We want to average all the data. So we can type average if, and then I'm going to average my range. I'm just going to go up here. Got to get my range. And then I'm going to refer to a cell that doesn't have anything in it at the moment. And then I'm going to average the budget. Okay, there's nothing there. See, there's nothing there because it doesn't have anything to look up. I need to put something in G27. So let's just put the SS there. Now it averages the, let's make that pretty so you can see. So here's my little cell. Notice I stuck it over here. I could stick it anywhere as long as the formula has a place to look. And now if I want to average the admin, I could just change it and it averaged the admin. So there's average if. Very cool function. I use that a lot too. Lecture B. If you have any questions, send me an email. Thanks.